Clara's knees hit the frozen ground. She couldn't feel them anymore. Couldn't feel anything except the weight of her dying baby against her chest, and the terrible silence of her two children behind her, too weak to cry, too cold to speak. The snow kept falling. It had been falling for 3 days. She looked up at the gray sky and whispered the only prayer she had left. Just let it be quick. That's when she heard the hooves. If you want to walk this journey with Clara, subscribe now and follow her story to the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The snow had stopped asking permission. It came down thick and mean, like God himself had turned his back on Montana territory. Clara Whitmore crawled. Her hands were past numb, past pain. They were just things attached to her body, now dragging through the white, pulling her forward inch by frozen inch. Behind her, she heard Will's breathing shallow, ragged the breath of a 7-year-old boy trying not to die. "Mama." Maddie's voice was barely a whisper. "Mama, I can't." Clara stopped, turned. Her 4-year-old daughter stood knee-deep in a drift, her lips blue, her eyes glassy. "Yes, you can." Clara's voice cracked. "You hear me. Martha Jane Whitmore. You can, and you will." "My legs don't work no more." Clara pushed herself up. Every muscle screamed. Every bone begged her to lie down to let the cold take her to finally rest. She ignored them all. She lifted Maddie onto her hip. The girl weighed nothing. That was wrong. Children should weigh something. Will stumbled forward and grabbed Clara's skirt. His fingers were white. "How much farther, Mama?" Clara looked ahead. Nothing but white. White ground, white sky, white death stretching in every direction. "Not far," she lied. "Not far now." Against her chest, baby Rose hadn't cried in hours. Clara pressed her palm against the infant's back, feeling for breath, for heartbeat, for anything. There. Faint, but there. "Please," Clara whispered. "To God, to the wind, to anyone listening. Please not her. Take me. Take anything. But not her." The wind answered with silence. They walked for another hour. Or maybe it was minutes. Time had stopped meaning anything 3 days ago, when the wagon wheel snapped and the horse ran off, and Clara realized they were 15 miles from the nearest town, with nothing but the clothes on their backs. She had carried them this far on stubbornness alone. But stubbornness was running out. Will fell first, just dropped into the snow like a puppet with cut strings. "Will?" Clara set Maddie down and rushed to him, turning him over, patting his face. William, open your eyes." His eyelids fluttered. "Tired, Mama." "I know, baby. I know. But you can't sleep. Not here." "Just for a minute." "No." Clara pulled him up, shook him. "No minutes. We keep moving. We keep—" Her legs gave out. She didn't mean to fall, didn't choose it. Her body simply decided it was done, and down she went, taking Will with her, Maddie crying somewhere behind her, Rose silent against her chest. The snow was soft, almost warm. That's the lie, Clara thought. That's how it gets you, makes dying feel like sleeping. She should get up. She knew she should get up. But her arms wouldn't move. Her legs wouldn't answer. And for the first time in 6 months since Harold's funeral, since the banker took the house, since she started walking with 3 children, and no destination, Clara Whitmore stopped fighting. "I'm sorry," she whispered to her children. "I'm so sorry. Mama tried." Will's hand found hers in the snow, small, cold, still. "It's okay, Mama." It wasn't. God, it wasn't. She had failed them. Failed all of them. Dragged them across 3 states to die in a snowdrift in the middle of nowhere because she was too proud to beg and too stubborn to quit. Clara closed her eyes. The snow kept falling. And then hooves. Distant at first, then closer. The creak of leather. The snort of a horse. Clara didn't open her eyes. Another hallucination. She'd had them before. Heard Harold calling her name. Saw her mother's face in the clouds. Jesus Christ! The voice was real, deep, male, close. Boots hit the ground. Heavy footsteps crunching through the snow. Ma'am, can you hear me? A hand touched her shoulder. Warm. So warm it burned. Clara opened her eyes. A man knelt beside her. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face half hidden by a snow-dusted hat. Dark eyes looked down at her with something she hadn't seen in months. Concern. How many? He asked. Clara blinked. What? Children. How many children you got? 3. The word came out cracked. 3. Please. My baby. The man was already moving. He pulled the shawl back from Rose's face, pressed 2 fingers to her tiny throat. His jaw tightened. She's breathing. Barely. He looked at Will, at Maddie, then back at Clara. Can you stand? I don't. I tried. Can you try again? Something in his voice. Not pity, not judgment. Just a question, plain and simple. Clara gritted her teeth. Yes. He pulled her up. She swayed, would have fallen, but his arm caught her waist and held her steady. Name's Sam Donovan, he said. I got a ranch 3 miles north. Warm fire, hot food. You're coming with me. I can't. I'm not a charity case. Ma'am? He cut her off, his voice hard. Your children are dying. Now ain't the time for pride. Clara looked at Will, barely conscious in the snow. At Maddie, curled into a ball, shaking. At Rose, who hadn't opened her eyes in hours. She swallowed everything she wanted to say, the protests, the excuses, the fierce independence that had kept her alive this long, and nodded once. Good. Sam whistled, and his horse trotted forward. Boy goes in front. I'll hold him steady. Little one rides with you. Baby stays against your chest. Body heat's the only thing keeping her going. He moved fast. Efficient. Like this was something he'd done before. Within minutes they were mounted. Will slumped against Sam's chest, barely conscious. Maddie clung to Clara's waist. Rose lay still and silent. Sam urged the horse forward into the white. 3 miles, he said. 20 minutes. Stay awake. Clara wanted to thank him. Wanted to ask why he'd stopped, why he cared, why a stranger would risk his own life for a woman he'd never met. But the cold had taken her words along with everything else. She pressed her face into Rose's blanket and prayed not for herself, but for her children. For 20 more minutes of life. The horse pushed through the snow. Sam's arm stayed firm around Will. And Clara, for the first time in 6 months, let someone else carry the weight. The ranch house appeared through the white, like a ghost becoming real. Clara saw it in pieces, smoke rising from a chimney, the dark shape of a roof, the glow of a window through the storm. She thought she might be dreaming. Had dreamed of warmth so many times in the past 3 days that she no longer trusted her eyes. But the horse stopped. Sam dismounted, lifting Will as if the boy weighed nothing. Can you walk? Clara tried to swing her leg over. Couldn't. Her body had locked up, frozen in place. Here. Sam shifted Will to one arm like the boy was made of feathers, and reached up with the other. Give me your hand. She did. His grip was iron. He pulled her down, caught her when her legs buckled, steadied her with a patience that made her throat tight. Maddie, Clara gasped. Maddie's still... I got her. Sam reached up and lifted the girl off the horse. She hung limp in his arms, eyes closed. She's breathing. Come on. Inside. The door opened before they reached it. An older woman stood in the frame, white hair, braided eyes sharp as flint. She took one look at the scene and stepped aside. Kitchen, she said. By the stove. Move. Sam carried the children in. Clara stumbled after her legs, barely working her arms locked around Rose. The heat hit her like a wall. After 3 days of cold, it felt violent, painful almost, and Clara gasped, her skin burning, as blood rushed back into frozen places. "Set them down here." The old woman pointed to a pile of blankets near a massive iron stove. "Boy first. He's the worst off." Sam laid Will on the blankets. The woman knelt beside him, pulling off his boots, rubbing his feet with her bare hands. "Frostbite on the toes," she muttered. "Not deep. He'll keep them." She looked up at Clara. "The baby. Let me see." Clara's arms tightened. Every instinct screamed to protect, to hold, to never let go. "Ma'am." The woman's voice softened, just barely. "I raised 6 children and buried 2. I know what cold does. Let me see her." Slowly, Clara unwrapped Rose from the shawl. The baby's skin was gray. Her lips were white. She hadn't opened her eyes, hadn't cried, hadn't moved. The old woman pressed her ear to Rose's chest, counted silently, then straightened. Heart's beating, slow but beating. She held out her arms. "I'll warm her proper, skin to skin. It's the only way." Clara hesitated. "Her name is Rose," she whispered. "Rose." The woman nodded. "Pretty name for a fighter. She's fighting, you know. Every breath she takes is a war. You raised a warrior, ma'am. Now let me help her win." Clara placed her daughter in the woman's arms. It felt like handing over a piece of her own heart. The woman settled into a rocking chair, tucking Rose against her chest beneath layers of wool. She began to hum low steady, the kind of sound that had survived centuries. "Sit down before you fall down." Sam's voice came from behind her. "When's the last time you ate?" Clara turned. He stood by the stove pouring something from a pot into a tin cup. "I don't know." "Wrong answer." He pushed the cup into her hands. "Drink." It was broth. Thin, salty, hot. Clara lifted it to her lips and drank, and the warmth spread through her, like fire through dry grass. She sank onto a wooden bench. Her legs were shaking, had been shaking for hours probably, but she hadn't noticed until now. Sam crouched in front of Maddie, who sat where she'd been placed, eyes open, but empty. "Hey there." His voice was different now, softer. "What's your name, little miss?" Maddie didn't answer, just stared. "That's all right. You don't have to talk." He pulled a blanket around her shoulders. "You just rest. You're safe now." Safe. The word hit Clara like a blow. Safe. When was the last time she had felt safe? Before Harold died. Before the creditors came. Before she watched her entire life burn to ash while the neighbors stood by and did nothing. "She hasn't spoken." Clara's voice came out rough. "Not in 2 days. She's scared of strangers." Sam nodded. "She's smart then." He stood. "Miss Harriet." He gestured at the old woman. "She'll look after the little ones. You need to warm up proper." "I'm fine." "Ma'am, your lips are blue and you're shaking so hard I can hear your teeth rattle. You ain't fine." I heard what you said." He met her eyes, held them. "And I'm telling you that your children need you alive. You can be proud tomorrow. Tonight you survive." Clara opened her mouth to argue, closed it. He was right. She hated that he was right. "There's a room down the hall," Sam continued. "Clean bed, extra blankets. I'll bring food when you're ready." "Why?" The question came out before she could stop it. Sam paused. "Why what?" "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't know—" Her voice cracked. "You don't know anything about me. Why would you—" "Because someone did it for me once." His voice was quiet. "Long time ago, after the war. I was dying in a ditch outside Richmond, and a man I never met pulled me out, stitched me up, and sent me west." He shrugged. "I figure I owe a debt, and I reckon you're the kind of person worth paying it to." Clara stared at him. In 6 months of walking, 6 months of begging, borrowing, sleeping in barns and ditches and abandoned churches, not a single person had looked at her the way this man was looking at her now. Like she was human. Like she mattered. She stood up. Her legs held, barely. Down the hall. First door on the right. She nodded, walked past him, stopped at the doorway. "Mr. Donovan?" "Sam." "Sam." She turned her head, not quite looking at him. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet, ma'am. Storm's supposed to last 3 more days. You might get sick of me." The ghost of a smile crossed her face, the first in longer than she could remember. "I doubt it." She walked down the hall, closed the door behind her, and finally let the tears come. Clara woke to silence. For a long moment she didn't know where she was. The ceiling was wrong, the bed was too soft, the air was warm. Then it came back, the snow, the man on the horse, the ranch house that appeared like a miracle. She sat up fast. "Rose." The door creaked open. Miss Harriet stood in the frame, a bundle in her arms, a bundle that was moving, squirming, fussing. "Somebody wants her mama," the old woman said. Clara was across the room before she knew she'd moved. She snatched Rose from Harriet's arms and pressed the baby against her chest, feeling the warmth of her, the life of her, the tiny heartbeat that had almost stopped forever. "She's all right." Clara's voice shook. "She's really all right. She's hungry, she's angry, and she won't take the goat's milk I tried to give her." Harriet almost smiled. "That's about as all right as babies get." Clara looked down at her daughter. Rose's eyes were open, dark blue like the sky before a storm. She was crying now, actually crying, that thin, furious wail that Clara had thought she might never hear again. "Thank you." The words were inadequate. Nothing could be adequate. "I don't know how to—" "Don't!" Harriet held up a hand. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because she deserved to live, and so do you." She paused at the door. "Your other 2 are in the kitchen. The boy's already asking when breakfast is." "That's a good sign." She left. Clara sank onto the bed, Rose still crying against her chest. She fumbled with her dress. Finally got Rose latched and watched her daughter nurse like she'd been starving. Which she had been, Clara realized. They all had been. How close had they come? How close to leaving her children, orphans in a snowdrift, their bodies found in spring by some passing stranger? The thought made her sick. But they were alive. Somehow, impossibly, they were alive. Clara kissed the top of Rose's head. "I'm sorry, baby girl. Mama's so sorry. I tried to—" She couldn't finish. Didn't know how to finish. Rose just kept nursing her tiny hand pressed against Clara's skin, and that was answer enough. The kitchen was warm and loud. Clara walked in to find Will sitting at a long wooden table, a plate of bacon and eggs in front of him, eating like he hadn't seen food in a week, which, close enough, he hadn't. "Mama!" He looked up, mouth full. "There's bacon, real bacon and eggs and—" "Slow down." Clara managed a smile. "You'll make yourself sick." "But Mama, there's bacon." "I heard." Maddie sat beside him, a plate in front of her, untouched. She was watching Sam, who stood at the stove with his back to the room, his shoulders tight. "Maddie, honey, you need to eat." Her daughter shook her head, still not speaking. Clara's chest tightened. Whatever had happened in those 3 days of walking, whatever her children had seen in her eyes, her desperation, her surrender had broken something in her little girl. She sat down beside Maddie and pulled her close. "It's safe here, I promise. We're safe." Maddie looked up at her. "You said that before." The words hit Clara like a slap, because Maddie was right. She had said that before. Said it when they left Ohio. Said it when they arrived at Harold's farm. Said it when Harold died, and she promised them everything would be fine. And every time, she had been wrong. "I know." Clara's voice was barely a whisper. "I know I did. And I'm sorry. But this time—" "Ma'am." Sam's voice. She turned. He stood by the stove, a plate in his hands. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were steady. "Your girl's smart," he said. "She's learned not to trust easy. That ain't a flaw. That's survival." He set the plate in front of Clara, eggs, bacon biscuits with honey. "But she's watching you. If you believe you're safe, she will too. If you don't—" He shrugged. "Kids know. They always know." Clara looked down at the food, then at her daughter, then at the man who had pulled them from the snow. She picked up her fork, took a bite, made herself chew swallow-taste. "This is good," she said. Not to Sam, to Maddie. "Really good. You should try it." A pause, a long one. Then Maddie reached for her fork. Sam turned back to the stove without a word, but Clara saw at the slight release of tension in his shoulders, the way his grip loosened on the spatula. He had been waiting, watching. He cared. The realization settled into her chest like a stone in still water. This man, this stranger, this cowboy who had appeared out of a blizzard, he cared what happened to them. Not because he wanted something, not because he expected payment, just because. Clara had forgotten that was possible. 3 days passed, then 4, then a week. The storm blew itself out on the 5th day, leaving behind a world buried in white, silent as a held breath. Clara stood at the window and watched the sun rise over the snow, painting everything gold and pink, and felt something she couldn't name. Not hope, not yet, but something close. Behind her, the house had come alive. Miss Harriet ran the kitchen like a general barking orders at the ranch hands, who came in for meals, keeping Clara busy with tasks that made her feel useful instead of charity. Sam was gone most days out with the cattle, fighting to keep them alive through the freeze. He came back after dark snow on his shoulders, exhaustion in his eyes, and sat at the table to eat whatever Harriet had saved him. He didn't talk much. Neither did Clara. But sometimes in the quiet of the evening their eyes would meet across the room. And something would pass between them, recognition maybe, or understanding. We know what it is to survive, that look said. We know what it costs. Will recovered fastest. Within 2 days he was following the ranch hands around, asking questions, trying to help with chores that were 3 sizes too big for him. "That boy's got grit," Harriet said one morning, watching him through the window. "Reminds me of my second son. He went on to run his own spread up in Wyoming." Clara watched her son trying to lift a bucket that weighed more than he did. He grew up too fast. They do that, when they have to. Maddie was slower. She still didn't speak to strangers, still flinched when Sam walked into a room, still woke screaming from nightmares she couldn't describe. But on the 6th day, something changed. Sam came in from the cold, stomping snow from his boots, and Maddie was sitting by the fire with a rag doll Harriet had found somewhere. She looked up at him, he looked down at her, and then, without a word, Sam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden horse. Roughly carved, simple, but recognizable. He set it on the hearth beside her. "Made it," he said. "For you. If you want it." Maddie stared at the horse, then at Sam, then at the horse again. She picked it up, turned it over in her hands, ran her finger along the mane. "What's his name?" she whispered. Sam blinked. "Hadn't thought of one. You choose." A pause. Long. Heavy. "Thunder," Maddie said. "His name is Thunder." "That's a good name." She almost smiled. Not quite, but almost. Clara watched from the doorway, Rose asleep in her arms, and felt her heart crack open just a little bit more. On the 8th day, the truth came out. Clara was hanging laundry in the back room she had insisted on working on, earning her keep on being useful when Harriet appeared in the doorway. "Got a question for you," the old woman said. "And I want an honest answer." Clara's hands stilled on the wet fabric. "All right. Where you headed before the storm took you?" Clara was quiet for a long moment. "East. My sister in Springfield. She was supposed to take us in. Letter came back. She's gone. Moved, died, I don't know." Clara's voice was flat. "We were walking to the next town when the wagon broke. I thought we could make it. I was wrong." Harriet nodded slowly. "And now? Were you planning to go now?" Clara hung the shirt, reached for another. Her hands were shaking. I don't know. You got people anywhere? Family, friends? No. Money? No. Land. Clara stopped. Her throat tightened. I had land. My husband's land. But when he died, she swallowed. There was a debt. At least that's what the man said. Frank Dutton. He showed papers, said Harold owed him, said I had to pay or give him the farm. And you believed him? I didn't have a choice. The sheriff was his cousin. The banker was his friend. The whole town... Clara's voice cracked. They all just watched him take everything. And then they watched me walk away with 3 children and nothing else. Silence filled the room. Harriet's eyes were hard, but not at Clara. At something else. Something distant. Frank Dutton, she repeated. That name mean anything to Sam? I don't know. Why? Because Sam spent 5 years as a bounty hunter before he came here, and he's got a long memory for names. Harriet turned toward the door. I'd ask him if I were you. She left. Clara stood alone in the laundry room, the wet shirt cold in her hands, and felt something stir in her chest. Not hope, something sharper. Anger. She found Sam in the barn that evening, brushing down his horse, his movements slow and rhythmic. Mr. Donovan. He didn't turn. Thought we settled on Sam. Sam. She stepped closer. I need to ask you something. Ask. Do you know a man named Frank Dutton? His hand stopped, just for a second, then resumed. Why? Because he took everything I had. My home, my land, my husband's legacy. Clara's voice shook. He said Harold owed him money, showed papers. But Harold never mentioned any debt. And now I'm here in your kitchen eating your food, and I don't even know if any of it was true. Sam set down the brush, turned to face her. His eyes were dark, darker than she'd seen them. Frank Dutton, he said slowly, is a con man. Forger. Ran schemes across Kansas and Nebraska for years. Fake debts, fake papers, fake everything. Took farms from widows' orphans, anyone too weak to fight back. Clara felt the blood drain from her face. I chased him for 2 years, Sam continued. Got close once in Abilene, then he disappeared. Heard he settled somewhere in Montana, went respectable. He paused. Guess now I know where. Clara's legs gave out. She sat down hard on a hay bale, her vision blurring. It was fake, she whispered. All of it. He just took... Yeah. Sam's voice was soft. He did. But that means... Clara looked up, tears streaming down her face. That means the land is still mine. Harold didn't owe him anything. The farm is probably ashes by now. Sam crouched in front of her, his face level with hers. Men like Dutton don't leave loose ends. If he took your farm, he burned it. Made sure you couldn't come back. Clara closed her eyes. Everything. She had lost everything. Not to bad luck, not to God's will, but to a liar and a thief who had looked her in the eye and smiled while he stole her children's future. I'll kill him. The words came out flat. Cold. Sam didn't flinch. No, you won't. Watch me. Clara. His hand touched her knee, light, careful. I know what that anger feels like. I know what it does to you, and I'm telling you it ain't worth it. He ain't worth it. Then what? She opened her eyes. What am I supposed to do? Just let him win. Let him keep living while my children almost died because of him. No. Sam's jaw tightened. You don't let him win. You survive. You rebuild. You make something so strong, so good that his name becomes nothing but dirt in your mouth. He paused. That's how you beat a man like Dutton. Not with a bullet. With a life. Clara stared at him. The anger was still there, burning. But underneath it something else was growing. Something that felt almost like, I don't know how, she said. I don't know how to start over. I don't have anything. You got 3 kids who are still breathing. You got hands that work and a head that thinks and a heart that won't quit. Sam stood, offered her his hand, and you got a place here, for as long as you need it. Clara looked at his hand. Rough, scarred, steady. She took it. Winter settled in like an old enemy that refused to leave. Clara learned the rhythm of the ranch in pieces. Wake before dawn. Feed Rose while the house still slept. Help Harriet with breakfast. Scrub, mend, cook, repeat. Keep moving. Keep useful. Keep earning the right to stay. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Her body remembered how to work. Her hands grew rough again, calloused from lye soap and hot water and the endless labor of keeping a household alive. She didn't mind. The work gave her something to hold on to when her thoughts turned dark, and they turned dark often. At night when the children slept and the house fell quiet, Clara would lie awake and think about Frank Dutton. Picture his face, the false sympathy, the patient smile, the way he'd patted her hand at Harold's funeral and said, "Don't you worry, Mrs. Whitmore. We'll sort this out." She'd trusted him. God help her, she'd trusted him. "You're grinding your teeth again." Clara's eyes snapped open. Harriet stood in the doorway of her room, a candle in her hand, her white braid loose over one shoulder. "I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't. I don't sleep much these days." Harriet walked in and sat on the edge of the bed. Bad dreams. Bad memories. Same thing mostly. The old woman was quiet for a moment. "You want to talk about it?" "No." "Good. Talking's overrated anyway." Harriet set the candle on the nightstand. "But I'm going to say something and you're going to listen. Can you do that?" Clara nodded. "I've watched you for 3 weeks now. You work harder than any woman I've seen. You love those children like breathing, and you carry more guilt than any one person should." Harriet's eyes were sharp in the candlelight. "But guilt's a funny thing. It makes you think you deserve to suffer, and suffering makes you think you can't accept help. You see where I'm going with this?" Clara's throat tightened. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Harriet leaned closer. "Sam offered you a place here, a real place, not charity work, and you've been treating it like a prison sentence instead of a second chance." "I'm grateful." "I didn't say you weren't grateful. I said you're not accepting it." Harriet's voice softened. "There's a difference, Clara. Gratitude's what you feel. Acceptance is what you do." Clara looked down at her hands. "I don't know how to accept things. Every time I've trusted, every time I've believed something good could last, it didn't. No." Harriet was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out and took Clara's hand. "I buried 2 children and a husband," she said quietly. "Lost a farm to drought and another to fire. Watched everything I built turn to dust 3 times over. You know what I learned?" Clara shook her head. "That good things don't last. But neither do bad things. And the only thing worse than losing something is never having it at all." She squeezed Clara's hand. "Sam's a good man. This is a good place. Stop waiting for it to fall apart and start living in it." She stood up, took her candle, and walked to the door. "Harriet." The old woman turned. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. Just stop grinding your teeth. I can hear it through the walls." She left. Clara lay in the darkness, Harriet's words echoing in her head. Stop waiting for it to fall apart. She closed her eyes. For the first time in weeks, she didn't dream of Frank Dutton. She dreamed of nothing at all. The next morning, everything changed. Clara was kneading bread when the front door slammed open, and one of the ranch hands stumbled in snow on his shoulders, panic in his eyes. "Sam's hurt." The words hit Clara like ice water. Her hands froze in the dough. "What happened?" Harriet was already moving, grabbing her medicine box from the shelf. "Horse threw him, out by the North Ridge. He hit his head on a rock." The ranch hand, a young man named Pete, was breathing hard. "He's conscious, but barely. We got him on a horse, but he keeps trying to pass out." "Where is he now?" "Coming. 5 minutes behind me. I rode ahead to warn you." Harriet turned to Clara. "Clear the table. Get hot water on the stove. Find every clean cloth we have." Clara didn't ask questions. She moved. By the time Sam came through the door, supported by 2 ranch hands, the table was cleared and covered with a clean sheet. Hot water steamed in a basin. Clara stood ready with bandages she'd torn from an old bedsheet. "Set him down easy," Harriet ordered. "Easy, I said, he ain't a sack of flour." They lowered Sam onto the table. His eyes were half closed, his face pale beneath the weathered tan. Blood matted his hair on the right side, and his breathing was shallow. "Sam." Harriet leaned over him, snapping her fingers near his ear. "Sam Donovan, you open your eyes and look at me." His eyelids fluttered. "Harriet." "That's right. Now tell me what day it is." "Thursday." "What month?" "February." He winced, tried to sit up. "I'm fine." "You're bleeding from the head and you can barely keep your eyes open. That ain't fine." Harriet pressed him back down. "Clara, bring that water, and hold him still while I clean this wound." Clara moved to Sam's side. His eyes found hers, unfocused but present. "Hey," he said. His voice was rough. "Hey yourself." She put her hands on his shoulders, holding him steady. "Stop trying to move." "Bossy." "You hit your head on a rock. You don't get an opinion." He almost smiled. Then Harriet pressed a cloth to his wound and he hissed through his teeth. "Deep cut but the bone's intact," Harriet muttered. "You're lucky, Sam. Another inch to the left and we'd be having a different conversation." "How different?" "The kind where I'm picking out hymns for your funeral." Sam closed his eyes. "That bad? That close?" Harriet threaded a needle, her hand steady. "I'm going to stitch this. It's going to hurt. Try not to scream, you'll scare the children." Clara looked down at Sam's face. His jaw was clenched, his hands fisted at his sides. Without thinking, she reached down and took one of his hands. His eyes opened, met hers. "Squeeze if you need to," she said quietly. "I don't mind." He didn't answer, but his fingers wrapped around hers, and when Harriet pushed the needle through his skin, he squeezed hard enough to bruise. Clara didn't flinch. She just held on. The stitching took 15 minutes. By the end, Sam was pale and sweating, but conscious. Harriet wrapped his head in clean bandages and stepped back. "You're staying in bed for 3 days," she said. "And that's not a suggestion. The cattle will survive without you. Pete and the boys know what to do." She turned to Clara. "You're on nursing duty. Keep him awake for the next few hours. Head wounds can go bad if they sleep too soon. Feed him broth, make him drink water, and don't let him do anything stupid." "I'm right here," Sam said. "I know. That's why I'm giving instructions to someone who'll actually follow them." Harriet gathered her supplies. "I'll be in the kitchen if you need me." She left. Clara and Sam looked at each other. "Sorry," he said. "For what, this?" He gestured vaguely at his bandaged head. "Being a burden." Clara pulled up a chair and sat down beside the table. "You rode into a blizzard to save my family. I think I can handle a few hours of babysitting." "That's different." "How?" He didn't answer. His eyes drifted closed. "Hey." Clara snapped her fingers the way Harriet had. "No sleeping. Doctor's orders." "Harriet's not a doctor. She's the closest thing we've got. Now stay awake." Clara thought for a moment. "Tell me something. About yourself. Something I don't know." Sam's brow furrowed. "Like what? Anything. Where you grew up. How you ended up here. Something." He was quiet for so long she thought he might have drifted off despite her warning. Then he spoke. "Virginia. Little farm outside Richmond. My father grew tobacco. My mother grew everything else." His voice was distant, like he was reading from a book written long ago. "I had a brother, Daniel, 2 years younger. Thought he hung the moon. What happened to him?" Sam's jaw tightened. "War happened. I enlisted at 17. He followed a year later, soon as he was old enough. We fought together for 2 years. Gettysburg, Cold Harbor, Petersburg." He paused. "He died at 5 Forks, 3 days before Lee surrendered." Clara's heart clenched. "Sam, I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was a long time ago." He opened his eyes, staring at the ceiling. After the war, I went home. Farm was gone. Burned by Sherman's boys on their way through. Found my mother's grave behind what was left of the barn. Never found my father. And your sister Harriet mentioned Sarah. His voice caught on the name. She was 11 when I left. I spent 5 years looking for her. Followed every lead, every rumor. Finally found someone who knew where she'd gone to mission school up in Dakota Territory. He swallowed. Got there just in time to see them bury her. Consumption. She'd been dead 2 weeks. Clara didn't speak. Couldn't speak. That's why I came here, Sam continued. Bought the ranch with bounty money. Built something. Figured if I couldn't save my own family, maybe I could help someone else's. He turned his head, meeting her eyes. Then I found you in that snow. Clara's throat burned. I didn't know. Didn't want you to. Ain't the kind of story you tell to make friends. You told me. Yeah. His hand moved, found hers again. I did. They sat in silence. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind howled. Clara thought about everything she'd assumed about this man. The simple cowboy who'd saved her life. The quiet rancher who kept to himself. She hadn't known he was carrying his own graveyard. We're quite a pair, she said finally. How do you mean? Both of us dragging ghosts around. Both of us trying to outrun them. She looked down at their joined hands. Both of us failing. Sam's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Maybe that's why we found each other. Maybe. The word hung in the air, full of possibilities neither of them was ready to name. Mama. Clara turned. Will stood in the doorway, his eyes wide. Is Mr. Sam going to die? Sam lifted his head. Not today, son. Takes more than a rock to kill me. Will's face crumpled. I thought when Pete said... Clara released Sam's hand and crossed the room, kneeling in front of her son. He's going to be fine. Just needs rest. Like when you had that fever, remember, but he's bleeding. Was bleeding. Miss Harriet fixed him up. He'll be good as new in a few days. Will looked past her at Sam. Promise. Sam met the boy's eyes. Promise. Will nodded slowly. Then, before Clara could stop him, he crossed the room and stood beside the table. I was scared, he said quietly. When I heard, I was really scared. It's okay to be scared, Sam said. I get scared too. You do. All the time. Being scared just means you got something worth protecting. Sam's voice was gentle. What are you scared of losing, Will? The boy was quiet for a long moment. Then, so softly, Clara almost didn't hear you. Clara's heart stopped. Sam reached out and put his hand on Will's shoulder. I ain't going anywhere. You hear me? I made a promise to your mama, and I keep my promises. You made a promise. That's right. To keep you and your sisters safe, and I don't break my word. Will stared at him. Then slowly he nodded. Okay. He looked at Clara. Can I stay? I want to help. Clara glanced at Sam. He nodded. You can stay, she said. But you have to be quiet. Mr. Sam needs rest. I'll be quiet. Will pulled up a stool and sat down beside the table, his small hand resting near Sam's arm. Clara watched them. Her son and this man who had stumbled into their lives like a gift they didn't deserve, and felt something crack open in her chest. This is what a family looks like, she thought. This is what I almost lost. The days that followed were quiet, slow. Sam fought Harriet's orders for the first day, trying to get up, trying to work, trying to pretend he wasn't dizzy and weak. By the second day, he'd given up and submitted to bed rest with the grace of a man who'd lost every battle he'd ever fought with that particular old woman. Clara brought him meals, sat with him while the children napped, talked about nothing and everything, the weather, the cattle, the way Maddie had finally started speaking again. She asked me about you, Clara said one afternoon. Wanted to know if you were sad. Sam raised an eyebrow. Sad? Because you got hurt. She said when she gets hurt she feels sad. Wanted to know if you were the same. Something softened in Sam's face. What did you tell her? The truth. That everyone feels sad sometimes, but having people around who care makes it better. That's a good answer. She thought so too. Clara paused. Then she asked if you were her friend. What did you say? I said she should ask you herself. Sam was quiet. Then, what did she decide? She decided you were. Said anyone who makes wooden horses and doesn't yell when he's hurt must be a good person. Clara smiled. Coming from Maddie, that's high praise. She's a smart kid. She is. Gets it from her father. Clara's smile faded. Harold wasn't a bad man. Just a quiet one. He didn't know how to be warm, but he tried. In his own way. Did you love him? The question caught her off guard. She stopped. Thought about it. I don't know. I was 16 when I married him. Didn't know what love was supposed to feel like. I respected him. I was grateful to him. But love... She shook her head. I'm not sure I'd recognize it if it hit me. Sam watched her with those dark, steady eyes. Maybe that's the problem. You're looking for something that hits, but real love doesn't hit. It builds, slow, quiet, like a house going up board by board. Spoken like a man who knows. I know some things. Did you love her? You're Abigail. Sam's jaw tightened. He didn't answer for a long moment. I thought I did, he said finally. We were young, foolish. Thought we'd build a life together, have children grow old on some little farm where nobody knew our names. He paused. Then she died, and I realized I didn't know what love was either, just the idea of it. And now, he met her eyes. Now I'm not so sure. The words hung between them. Clara felt her heart beating too fast, felt the weight of everything unspoken pressing against her chest. Sam, you don't have to say anything. His voice was gentle. I'm not asking for anything. Just... He stopped, took a breath. Just wanted you to know that I see you, not the widow, not the mother. You. Clara's eyes burned. Nobody's seen me in a long time. I know, that's why I'm telling you. He reached out his hand, finding hers. You're worth seeing, Clara. All of you. The strength, and the fear, and the anger, and the hope. All of it. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. So she did the only thing she could think of. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his, their breath mingling, their hands intertwined. They stayed like that for a long time. Neither of them said love. Neither of them needed to. By the 5th day, Sam was up and moving. Slower than usual, still pale, but determined. You're going to tear those stitches, Harriet warned. I'll be careful. You don't know the meaning of the word. But she let him go. They all did. Because the ranch needed him, and because a man like Sam couldn't stay still for long without going crazy. That afternoon, Clara was hanging laundry when she heard horses approaching. Multiple horses riding fast. She stepped around the corner of the house and froze. 3 men on horseback, well-dressed city clothes under heavy coats. The lead rider wore a black hat and a smile that made her blood run cold. She knew that smile. Frank Dutton pulled his horse to a stop and tipped his hat. Mrs. Whitmore, he said pleasantly. What a surprise. I heard you died in that blizzard. Clara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I can see the rumors were exaggerated. Dutton dismounted his boots, crunching in the snow. You're looking well. Better than I expected given the circumstances. What are you doing here? Looking for you, of course. He spread his hands. We have unfinished business, you and I. That little matter of your husband's debt. You stole my land. I collected a legal debt. There's a difference. His smile widened. But let's not argue about the past. I'm here to make you an offer. A generous one. I don't want anything from you. Hear me out. Dutton stepped closer. You're living on another man's charity, working as a servant. Your children are growing up in a bunkhouse. He shook his head. That's no life for a woman of your qualities. Come back with me. I'll give you a proper home. Marry me, and your children will have everything they need. Clara's stomach turned. I'd rather die. That can be arranged. His voice hardened. Just for a second. Then the pleasant mask returned. But I'm hoping it won't come to that. Think about your children, Clara. Think about what's best for them. I am. Clara's voice shook with rage. That's why I'm saying no. Dutton's smile faded. You don't have a choice. Yes, she does. Clara spun. Sam stood behind her, his hand resting on the gun at his hip, his face like stone. Sam Donovan. Dutton's eyes narrowed. I heard you retired. I did. Then this isn't your business. It is now. Sam stepped forward, putting himself between Clara and Dutton. The lady said no. That means you leave. I'm not leaving without what's mine. She ain't yours. Sam's voice dropped. She never was. And if you take one more step toward her, I'll show you exactly what retirement looks like. The two men stared at each other. Clara could feel the violence crackling in the air, could see Sam's finger resting on his holster. Dutton smiled. Cold, dangerous. This isn't over, he said softly. You can't watch her forever. Watch me. Dutton held Sam's gaze for a long moment. Then he turned, mounted his horse, and rode away without another word. His men followed. Clara watched them go, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her teeth. He'll come back, she said. I know. He won't stop. Men like him never stop. I know that too. Sam turned to face her. But this time you're not alone. Clara looked at him. This man who'd pulled her from the snow, who'd given her a home, who'd stood between her and the monster who'd taken everything. Why? She whispered. Why do you keep fighting for me? Sam reached up and touched her face. Gentle. Careful. Because you're worth fighting for, he said. And because I'm tired of watching good people lose. Clara closed her eyes, leaned into his touch. Outside, the wind picked up. Somewhere Frank Dutton was planning his next move. But in that moment, standing in the shadow of the ranch house, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. The days after Dutton's visit passed like a held breath. Clara found herself watching the horizon, constantly scanning for riders, listening for hoofbeats. She jumped at every sound, flinched at every shadow. The children noticed. Will started sleeping with a knife under his pillow. Maddie stopped speaking again. Sam doubled the patrols. Two men rode the perimeter at all times now, watching for strangers. The ranch hands muttered among themselves, casting worried glances at Clara when they thought she wasn't looking. She knew what they were thinking. She was trouble. A magnet for disaster. Maybe it would be better for everyone if she just left. One night she packed a bag. She moved quietly, gathering what little she owned into a small bundle. Her hands shook as she folded the children's clothes, but she didn't stop. This was the right thing. The only thing. If Dutton wanted her, he'd follow her. Away from the ranch. Away from Sam. Going somewhere? Clara froze. Harriet stood in the doorway, arms crossed. I have to go. Do you now? Dutton will come back. He'll hurt people. He'll hurt Sam. Clara's voice cracked. I can't let that happen. Not because of me. So you're going to run, in the middle of winter, with 3 children. Harriet's voice was flat. And go where exactly? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. That's a plan for dying, not living. Maybe that's what I deserve. The words hung in the air. Clara hadn't meant to say them out loud, but there they were, exposed and raw. Harriet walked into the room and sat on the bed. Sit down. Harriet. I said sit. Clara sat. Now listen to me. Harriet's voice was hard. I've buried 2 children. I've buried a husband. I've lost everything I ever loved, and I've thought about giving up more times than I can count. But you know what kept me going? Clara shook her head. Spite. Harriet's eyes glittered. Pure, stubborn spite. I refused to let this world beat me. I refuse to let the men who took my farm and my family win. She leaned closer. And you're going to do the same. You hear me? You're not running. You're not dying. You're fighting. I don't know how to fight someone like Dutton. Then you learn. Harriet stood. Sam's got a plan. He didn't want to tell you until he was sure, but since you're standing here with a packed bag like a fool, I reckon now's the time. She walked to the door. Kitchen, 5 minutes, and unpack that bag. She left. Clara stared at the bundle in her hands. Then slowly she started putting things back. Sam was waiting at the kitchen table when she arrived. His face was tired lines carved deep around his eyes, but his jaw was set with determination. Harriet told me, he said. She talks too much. She talks exactly as much as she needs to. He gestured to a chair. Sit down. We need to talk. Clara sat. She said you have a plan. I do, but you're not going to like it. Tell me anyway. Sam leaned forward, his elbows on the table. Frank Dutton's a con man. He's been running schemes across 3 territories for years. Fake debts, forged papers, stolen land. But he's smart. He never leaves evidence, never gives anyone a chance to prove what he did. I know all this. What you don't know is that he made a mistake. Sam's eyes met hers. When he took your land, he had to file papers with the county. Those papers are still there, and if we can prove they're forgeries, he'll be arrested. More than that, everything he stole gets returned to its rightful owners, including your farm. Clara's heart stuttered. But the farm burned. You said, the building's burned, the land's still there, and land's worth something, Clara. It's worth a future. She stared at him. How do we prove the papers are forged? That's the part you're not going to like. Sam took a breath. I need to go to the county seat. Helena, it's a week's ride in good weather, 2 weeks in winter. I need to find the original documents, compare them to the ones Dutton filed, and get a judge to issue a warrant. 2 weeks. Clara's voice was hollow. You'll be gone 2 weeks. Maybe more. And what happens here while you're gone? Sam was quiet for a moment. Pete and the boys will watch the ranch. Harriet will keep the house locked. You'll stay inside, keep the children close. And if Dutton comes back? He won't. Not right away. He's too smart for that. He'll wait, watch, look for an opening. Sam's jaw tightened. That's why I need to move fast. Get the evidence before he realizes what I'm doing. Clara stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the darkness. I don't want you to go. I know. I don't want to be alone again. Sam rose and crossed the room. His hand touched her shoulder, warm and steady. You won't be alone. Harriet's here. The children are here. And I'm coming back. He turned her to face him. I promise you, Clara. I'm coming back. People break promises. I don't. She looked into his eyes. Dark, steady, unwavering. The eyes of a man who had lost everything and rebuilt himself from the ashes. When do you leave for? Tomorrow. First light. Clara nodded slowly. Then we don't have much time. No, we don't. They stood in the darkness, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. Then Clara reached up and touched his face. Come back to me, she whispered. Come back to all of us. Sam covered her hand with his. I will. I swear it. He left before dawn. Clara stood on the porch and watched him ride away, his figure growing smaller against the gray horizon until he disappeared entirely. The wind cut through her shawl, but she didn't move, didn't breathe. Mama. Will stood behind her, still in his nightclothes. Go back inside, sweetheart. It's cold. Is Mr. Sam coming back? Clara turned. Her son's face was pale, his eyes too old for 7 years. Yes, she said. He's coming back. Promise. Clara knelt down and took his hands. I promise. Will studied her face, then nodded. Okay. He went back inside. Clara stayed on the porch, watching the empty horizon until Harriet came and pulled her in by the arm. The first week was the hardest. Clara threw herself into work, trying to fill the silence Sam had left behind. She scrubbed floors that were already clean, mended clothes that didn't need mending, baked bread until the kitchen overflowed with loaves. At night, she lay awake and listened to the wind, imagining hoofbeats that never came. The children felt it too. Will grew quiet, spending hours in the barn with the horses. Maddie clung to Clara's skirts, refusing to let her out of sight. Even Rose seemed fussier, crying for no reason, as if she could sense the tension in the air. "You're going to wear yourself out," Harriet said one morning. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're running yourself ragged trying not to think." Harriet set a cup of coffee in front of her. "Sit. Drink. Stop." Clara sat. Drank. Didn't stop. "He's been gone 6 days," she said. "Should have heard something by now. The roads are bad. Snow's been falling in the mountains. What if something happened? Then we'd know. Bad news travels fast." Harriet's voice was matter-of-fact. "No news is good news. Remember that." Clara wrapped her hands around the coffee cup. "I hate waiting. Everyone does. That's why it's called waiting and not enjoying." Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. On the 8th day, the stranger arrived. Clara was in the kitchen when she heard the commotion, shouting from the yard, the sound of horses. She grabbed the rifle Sam had taught her to use and ran to the window. A single rider approached the house. Not Sam, not Dutton, a woman. She rode like she'd been born in the saddle, her dark hair streaming behind her, her face set with determination. She reined in her horse and dismounted before anyone could stop her. "I need to speak to Clara Whitmore." Clara opened the door. "I'm Clara Whitmore." The woman looked her up and down. She was young, maybe 20, with sharp eyes and a harder mouth. "My name is Rebecca Cole. I'm Frank Dutton's wife." The world tilted. Clara gripped the doorframe to keep from falling. "His wife. Soon to be his former wife, if I have anything to say about it." Rebecca glanced around. "Can we talk inside? I'd rather not freeze to death delivering this information." Clara stepped aside. "Let her in." Harriet appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face suspicious. "Who's this?" "Frank Dutton's wife," Clara said. The words tasted like poison. Harriet's eyes narrowed. "And what does Frank Dutton's wife want with us?" Rebecca sat down at the table without being invited. "I want to help you destroy him." Silence. Clara slowly lowered herself into a chair across from Rebecca. "Why?" "Because he's a monster." Rebecca's voice was flat. "I married him 3 years ago. I was young, stupid, thought he was charming. It took me 6 months to realize what he really was. By then, it was too late." "What do you mean, too late?" Rebecca pulled down the collar of her dress. A scar ran across her collarbone, thick and ugly. "He did this when I tried to leave the first time. Said if I ever tried again, he'd kill me." Her eyes met Clara's. "I've been waiting 3 years for a chance to get free, and you're it." Clara's mind raced. "How can you help? I have documents. Real documents. Letters, contracts, evidence of every scheme he's ever run." Rebecca leaned forward. "He keeps them in a safe in his office. He thinks I don't know the combination, but I do. I've been copying them for months." "Why didn't you go to the law?" "Because the law is his friend. Judges, sheriffs, mayors, they're all in his pocket." Rebecca's mouth twisted. "But your man Sam Donovan, he's different. He's going to Helena, right? To the federal court." "How do you know that?" "Because Frank knows. He's got people watching. He knows Sam left, and he knows where he's going." Rebecca's voice dropped. "And he's planning something. Something bad." Clara's blood ran cold. "What kind of something?" "I don't know the details, but I heard him talking to his men. They mentioned the mountain pass. Something about making sure Sam never makes it to Helena." Clara stood up so fast her chair fell over. "We have to warn him." "That's why I'm here." Rebecca pulled a packet of papers from inside her coat. "These are the documents. If Sam has these, he won't need to find evidence in Helena. The evidence is right here." She pushed them across the table. "But someone needs to get these to him before Frank's men do." Clara looked at the papers, then at Rebecca. then at Harriet. "I'll go," she said. "No." Harriet's voice was sharp. "You can't ride. You've got 3 children. You're—" "I'm the only one who knows what Sam looks like. The only one who knows what's at stake." Clara's voice was steady now. "And I'm the only one Dutton won't expect. He thinks I'm weak, helpless, hiding here waiting to be rescued." She picked up the papers. "I'm done being rescued. It's time I did something." Clara. Harriet. Clara turned to face the old woman. "You told me to fight. This is me fighting." Harriet stared at her. A long moment passed. Then slowly she nodded. "Take the bay mare. She's fast and she knows the mountain trails." Harriet's voice was gruff. "And take this." She pulled a small pistol from her apron pocket. "You know how to use it." Clara took the gun, felt its weight in her hand. "I'll learn." She rode out within the hour. The cold hit her like a fist, but she ignored it. The papers were tucked inside her coat, pressed against her heart. Rebecca had given her directions to the mountain pass, the most likely place for Dutton's men to ambush Sam. If she pushed hard, she could make it in 2 days. The first day was brutal. The mare was strong, but the snow was deep, and Clara had to stop every few hours to rest the horse. She ate hard biscuits from her saddlebag and drank melted snow. She didn't sleep. By nightfall, she was halfway there. She made camp in a shallow cave, building a small fire to keep from freezing. The mare huddled close, seeking warmth. Clara sat with her back against the rock wall and stared into the flames. "What am I doing?" The question echoed in her head. 3 months ago, she'd been ready to die in a snowdrift. Now she was riding through the wilderness alone, carrying evidence that could destroy a powerful man trying to save a cowboy who had somehow become the center of her world. Life was strange, and terrifying, and beautiful. She closed her eyes and thought of Sam, his quiet voice, his steady hands, the way he looked at her like she was worth something. "I'm coming," she thought. "Hold on, I'm coming." She was on the trail again before dawn. The second day was worse. The wind picked up driving snow into her face, blinding her. The mare stumbled more than once, and Clara had to dismount and lead her through the deepest drifts. By midday, she heard gunshots. She froze. The sound came from ahead, echoing off the mountain walls. One shot, then another, then silence. Clara's heart hammered. She kicked the mare forward, pushing through the snow toward the sound. She found them in a narrow pass between 2 ridges. 3 men lay in the snow, dead. Their horses wandered nearby, confused and frightened. And in the center of it all, slumped against a boulder, was Sam. Clara threw herself off the mare and ran to him. "Sam! Sam!" His eyes opened, glazed with pain, but alive. "Clara!" His voice was a rasp. "What, how? Don't talk." She pulled open his coat. Blood soaked his shirt, spreading from a wound in his side. "Oh, God. Oh, God, Sam." "I'm okay. Just a scratch." "That's not a scratch." "Had worse." He tried to smile. Failed. "What are you doing here?" "Saving you, apparently." Clara pressed her hands against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Rebecca came, Dutton's wife. She brought documents, evidence." "Dutton's wife?" "Long story." Clara looked around frantically. "I need to get you somewhere warm. Can you ride?" "Maybe, if you help me up." It took everything she had to get him on his feet. He was heavier than she expected, and weak from blood loss. But he stayed conscious, stayed standing. She helped him onto the mare, climbed up behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist to hold him steady. "There's a cabin," Sam said. His voice was fading. "Half-mile east, Trapper's place. Empty in winter." "Which way?" He lifted a shaking hand, pointed. Clara kicked the mare forward. The cabin was small and cold, but it had walls and a roof and a fireplace. Clara got Sam inside and laid him on the floor, built a fire with numb fingers, stripped off his bloody shirt and examined the wound. The bullet had gone through. Clean exit. That was good. but he'd lost a lot of blood and his skin was pale as snow. "Stay with me," Clara said. She ripped strips from her petticoat and packed the wound, pressing hard. "Stay with me, Sam. Don't you dare leave me." "Wasn't planning on it." His eyes found hers. "You came." "Of course I came." "You could have died." "So could you." She tied off the bandage. "We're even." He laughed. It turned into a cough. "God, Clara, you're something else." "So I've been told." She smoothed the hair back from his forehead. "Now rest. I'll keep watch." "The men." "Dead. All 3. "There might be more." "Then I'll handle them." Clara picked up her pistol, checked that it was loaded. "I'm done being helpless, Sam. I'm done being the woman who needs saving." Sam looked at her. Something shifted in his eyes. "I believe you," he said softly. Then his eyes closed, and he slept. Clara sat beside him through the night, the pistol in her lap, watching the door. The fire crackled. The wind howled. But nothing came. Near dawn, Sam stirred. "Clara." She was at his side instantly. "I'm here." "The papers. Rebecca's documents." "Safe. I've got them." He nodded. "Then we finish this. Together." Clara took his hand. Together. Outside, the storm was breaking. The first light of dawn crept over the mountains, painting the snow gold and pink. They had survived. Now it was time to fight. They stayed in the cabin for 2 days. Sam's wound needed time to close, and Clara needed time to believe he was actually going to live. She changed his bandages every few hours, boiled snow for drinking water, and rationed what little food she'd brought. Neither of them slept much. On the second night, Sam's fever broke. Clara was dozing by the fire when she heard him stir. She was at his side before her eyes fully opened. "How do you feel?" "Like I got shot." He tried to sit up. Winced. "Which I did." "Don't move. You'll open the wound again." "Clara." His hand found hers. "I'm okay. I promise." She looked at him. His color was better. His eyes were clear. The death-gray pallor that had terrified her was gone. "You scared me," she said quietly. "I know. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. Just don't do it again." He almost smiled. "I'll try." Clara helped him sit up, propping him against the wall. His jaw tightened with pain, but he didn't make a sound. "The papers," he said. "Let me see them." Clara pulled the documents from inside her coat and handed them over. Sam spread them on the floor, his eyes scanning the pages. "Good God," he breathed. "What?" "This is everything. Every scheme Dutton's ever run. Names, dates, amounts." He looked up at her. "There are letters here from judges, sheriffs, even a territorial governor." "What does that mean?" "It means Dutton didn't just steal from you. He's been stealing from people across 3 territories for a decade. And he's been paying off officials to look the other way." Sam's voice hardened. "This is enough to put him away for life. Maybe enough to hang him." Clara's heart pounded. "So we take it to Helena, to the federal court." "We do." Sam gathered the papers carefully. "But first, we need to get you back to the ranch. The children are safe with Harriet, and I'm not leaving you." "Clara, no." Her voice was firm. "I didn't ride through a blizzard and watch you almost die just to turn around and go home. We finish this. Together." Sam stared at her. A long moment passed. Then he nodded. "Together." They left at dawn on the 3rd day. Sam could ride now, though Clara insisted on leading the horse while he rested. The going was slow, but the weather held. The sky was clear for the first time in weeks, and the sun turned the snow into a blinding sea of white. Helena was 3 days away. They traveled in silence, mostly conserving their strength. But on the second night, camped beneath a rocky overhang, Sam finally spoke about what had happened in the pass. "There were 4 of them," he said, "waiting in the rocks. I saw them before they saw me, but not by much." "How did you survive?" "Training. Luck." He stared into the fire. "I killed 3. The fourth ran. He's probably back with Dutton by now, telling him what happened. Then Dutton knows you're alive. He knows I'm alive, and he knows someone warned me. Sam's jaw tightened. He'll figure out it was Rebecca, and he'll come for her. Clara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. We have to warn her. We will, after we get to Helena. Sam met her eyes. The best thing we can do for Rebecca is make sure Dutton can't hurt anyone ever again. Clara nodded slowly. You're right. I know you're right. She stopped, took a breath. I know what it's like to be trapped with a monster, to feel like there's no way out. You got out. Because of you. Sam shook his head. No, because of you. I just opened the door. You're the one who walked through it. Clara looked at him. The firelight played across his face, softening the hard lines. You really believe that? I do. His voice was quiet. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Clara. You just don't know it yet. She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Instead, she moved closer to him, careful of his wound, and rested her head against his shoulder. His arm came around her warm and solid. They sat like that until the fire burned low and the stars came out scattered across the black sky like promises. Helena appeared on the afternoon of the third day. Clara had never seen the city this size. The streets were crowded with people, horses, wagons. Buildings rose 2 and 3 stories high, their windows glittering in the weak winter sun. The noise was overwhelming after weeks of silence. Sam guided them through the chaos with the ease of someone who knew where he was going. The federal courthouse is at the end of Main Street, he said. Judge Morrison presides. He's honest. One of the few. You know him? Brought him a fugitive once. He remembered my name. Sam winced as the horse jostled him. That's more than most judges do. They reached the courthouse just as the sun began to set. Sam dismounted slowly, gripping Clara's arm for support. His face was pale, but determined. Ready? He asked. Clara looked at the doors. Heavy oak brass handles, the weight of law and justice behind them. Ready. They walked in together. Judge Morrison was a small man with a large presence. He sat behind a massive desk in a chamber lined with books, his gray eyes sharp as he watched them enter. A clerk hovered nearby, pen poised over paper. Sam Donovan, the judge said. His voice was dry as old paper. I heard you retired. I did, Your Honor. Then what brings you to my courtroom with a wound in your side and a woman on your arm? Sam reached into his coat and pulled out Rebecca's documents. He set them on the desk. Evidence, he said, against Frank Dutton. The judge's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Dutton's a respected businessman, friend to half the territory's officials. He's also a con man, a thief, and a murderer. Sam's voice was hard. Those papers prove it. 10 years of fraud, forged documents, bribed officials, everything. Morrison picked up the papers, started reading. His face remained impassive, but his hands tightened on the pages. Where did you get these? Dutton's wife, Clara said. She stepped forward. She risked her life to bring them to us. He's been holding her prisoner for 3 years. The judge looked at her. And you are? Clara Whitmore. Dutton stole my land using forged debt papers. He's the reason I almost died in a blizzard with my 3 children. Something shifted in Morrison's face. Just a flicker of humanity beneath the judicial mask. These are serious allegations, Mrs. Whitmore. They're not allegations, Your Honor. They're facts. Clara's voice didn't waver. I've got nothing left to lose. I'm not here for money or revenge. I'm here because men like Dutton keep winning, and someone has to stop them. Silence filled the chamber. Morrison set down the papers, looked at Sam, then at Clara, then at the papers again. If these documents are authentic, he said slowly, they implicate not just Dutton, but several territorial officials, judges, sheriffs, men I've worked with for years. I know, Sam said. Issuing warrants based on this evidence could bring down half the territorial government. I know that too. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned back in his chair. Why come to me? Why not go to the territorial authorities? Because they're all in Dutton's pocket. Sam's voice was flat. You're the only honest man left in Montana, Your Honor, and you know it. Morrison stared at him. The clock on the wall ticked. The clerk held his breath. Then the judge picked up his pen. I'll need statements from both of you, detailed accounts of everything Dutton did, and I'll need time to verify these documents. How much time? A week. Maybe more. Clara's heart sank. We don't have a week. Dutton knows we're coming. He'll run. Or worse, he'll destroy the evidence. Then we move faster. Morrison turned to his clerk. Send a telegram to the U.S. Marshal's office in Butte. Tell them we have evidence of federal crimes and need immediate assistance. The clerk scrambled out. Morrison looked at Clara. You were brave to come here, Mrs. Whitmore. Most people would have given up long ago. I almost did. Clara glanced at Sam. Someone reminded me that giving up wasn't an option. The judge nodded slowly. Stay in town. Find a hotel. Rest. You both look like you've been through hell. We have, Sam said. Then it's time for heaven to push back. Morrison stood, extended his hand. Thank you for bringing this to me, both of you. Clara shook his hand, felt the strength in his grip. For the first time in months, she let herself hope. They found a room at a boarding house near the courthouse. Nothing fancy, just a bed, a wash basin, and a small stove, but it was warm and dry and safe. Clara helped Sam onto the bed and checked his bandages. The wound was healing, but he was still weak. You need rest, she said. So do you. I'll rest when this is over. Sam caught her hand. Clara, stop. She looked at him. You've been running since I found you in that snow, running from Dutton, running from fear, running from everything. His voice was gentle. It's okay to stop now. Just for a minute. I don't know how to stop. I know. I didn't either. Not for a long time. He pulled her down to sit beside him on the bed. But you taught me something. What? That stopping isn't the same as giving up. Sometimes it's just catching your breath before the next fight. Clara's eyes burned. She was so tired, so bone-deep exhausted that she could barely remember what it felt like to not be afraid. What if we lose? She whispered. What if Morrison can't help us? What if Dutton wins? Then we fight again. Sam's hand cupped her face. And again, until we can't fight anymore. And then we go down swinging. His thumb brushed her cheek. But we won't lose. Not this time. Clara looked into his eyes. Dark, steady, certain. She leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't planned. Wasn't thought through. It just happened as natural as breathing, as inevitable as sunrise. Sam's arms came around her, pulling her close. The kiss deepened. She felt his heartbeat against her chest, strong and steady proof that he was alive, that they were both alive. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I've been wanting to do that, Sam said, since the first time you yelled at me. Clara laughed. It came out half sob. I yelled at you a lot. You did. It was wonderful. She rested her forehead against his. I'm scared, Sam. I know. I'm scared that this is all going to disappear, that I'm going to wake up and be back in that snowdrift dying alone. You're not alone. His voice was fierce. You're never going to be alone again. I promise you that. You can't promise. I can. I do. He pulled back to look at her. Clara Whitmore, I love you. I've loved you since I pulled you out of the snow. I've loved you through every argument and every silence and every moment in between. And I'm going to keep loving you until they put me in the ground. Clara's heart stopped, started again. You love me. More than anything. She stared at him. This man who had saved her life, who had given her hope when she had none, who had stood between her and the darkness and refused to move. "I love you too," she said. The words came out broken. "I didn't know I could. Didn't think I had it in me anymore. But I do. I love you, Sam." He kissed her again, softer this time, sweeter. And in that small room in Helena, with the world still uncertain and dangerous outside, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. The telegram came 3 days later. Clara was in the courthouse giving her statement to a federal clerk when Morrison burst through the doors. "They've arrested him," the judge said. "U.S. Marshals. They caught Dutton trying to cross the border into Canada. He's in custody." Clara's legs gave out. She would have fallen if Sam hadn't been there to catch her. "It's over," she whispered. "It's over." Morrison's face was grim but satisfied. They found more evidence at his office, enough to convict him 10 times over. "He'll hang Mrs. Whitmore. I guarantee it." Sam held her tight. She could feel him shaking. "What about Rebecca?" Clara asked. "His wife?" "She's safe. The marshals found her at the house. She's agreed to testify in exchange for immunity." Morrison paused. "She asked me to thank you. Both of you." Clara closed her eyes. Let the relief wash over her. It was really over. The monster was caught. The nightmare was ending. "What happens now?" Sam asked. "Now we go to trial. It'll take months, maybe longer, but the outcome's not in doubt." Morrison looked at Clara. "And your land, Mrs. Whitmore. The papers Dutton filed were forgeries. Everything he stole will be returned to its rightful owners, including your farm." Clara's heart clenched. The farm burned. The buildings burned. The land is still there. 160 acres of good Montana soil. Morrison's voice softened. "It's yours, Mrs. Whitmore. It always was." Clara looked at Sam. He was smiling, a real smile, the kind that reached his eyes. "Looks like you've got a choice to make," he said quietly. "What choice? Where you want to build your future? Your land or mine?" Clara thought about the farm, the memories, the grave where Harold lay buried, the life she'd tried so hard to build and lost. Then she thought about Sam's ranch, the warmth, the safety, the family she'd found there. "I don't want to go back," she said. "Not to the way things were." "Then don't." "But the land is just land. It doesn't have to be a home." Sam took her hands. "Come back with me. Bring the children. Build something new. And my land. Sell it, keep it, burn it. I don't care." His eyes held hers. "All I care about is you, and Will, and Maddie, and Rose. Everything else is just details." Clara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life." She kissed him, right there in the courthouse in front of Judge Morrison and the clerks and anyone else who happened to be watching. "Yes," she said against his lips. "Yes, take me home." The ride back took a week. Clara barely noticed the cold. The world had transformed somehow, the same snow and mountains and endless sky, but brighter now. Fuller. Like someone had turned up the light. Sam rode beside her. His wound nearly healed, his smile coming easier every day. They talked about everything and nothing. Plans for the future. Dreams they'd been afraid to dream. On the 6th day, Clara saw the ranch in the distance. Her heart lifted. She kicked her horse forward, racing toward the buildings, toward her children, toward home. Will saw her first. He came running out of the barn, shouting her name. His face split in a grin wider than the sky. Maddie was right behind him, and behind her came Harriet, carrying Rose on her hip. Clara jumped off her horse and fell to her knees, gathering her children into her arms, holding them so tight she couldn't breathe. "Mama!" Will was crying. "Mama, you came back. I told you I would." Clara kissed his head, his cheek, his nose. "I promised." "Mr. Sam came back too." "He did. We both did." Maddie looked up at her with those big, serious eyes. Is the bad man gone? Clara felt her throat close. Yes, sweetheart. The bad man is gone. He's never coming back. Maddie nodded slowly. Then for the first time in months, she smiled. Harriet walked up Rose, babbling in her arms. Took you long enough? I had some things to handle. So I heard. Harriet's eyes flicked to Sam, who had dismounted and was watching the reunion with a soft smile. You bring him back in one piece. Mostly. Good enough. Harriet handed Rose to Clara. She missed you. We all did. Clara held her baby close, breathing in the sweet smell of her, feeling the solid weight of her. All three of her children were here. Alive. Safe. It was more than she'd dared to hope for. Sam walked up and put his hand on her shoulder. Welcome home. Clara looked up at him. This man who had changed everything, who had pulled her from the snow and given her back her life. Home, she repeated. The word felt different now, bigger, fuller. She stood up, Rose in her arms. Will and Maddie pressed against her sides. Yeah, she said. I'm home. Spring came slow that year, like it was testing them. The snow melted in patches, revealing ground that had been hidden for months. The creek behind the ranch house started running again, and the sound of water became a constant companion. Clara woke each morning to birdsong instead of howling wind, and every time she had to remind herself this was real. 2 months had passed since Helena. 2 months since Dutton's arrest, since the nightmare ended, since she'd ridden back to the ranch with Sam at her side, and her heart full of something she'd forgotten how to feel. Hope. The trial was set for summer. Judge Morrison sent regular updates, each letter confirming what Clara already knew: Dutton would hang. The evidence was overwhelming. Rebecca's testimony had sealed his fate. But Clara didn't think about Dutton much anymore. She was too busy living. Mama watch. Will stood on the fence rail, arms spread wide, balancing like a tightrope walker. He'd grown in the past months, shooting up like a weed, his skinny frame filling out from regular meals and ranch work. Be careful, Clara called. I'm always careful. He jumped off and landed in the mud, grinning. That's not careful, Clara said. That's reckless. Mr. Sam says reckless and brave are the same thing. Mr. Sam is wrong. I heard that. Sam walked up behind her, his arms sliding around her waist. He kissed her neck. And I stand by what I said. You're teaching my son bad habits. I'm teaching him how to be a man. Clara leaned back against his chest. He's 7. Best time to start. Sam rested his chin on her head. Besides, he's got good instincts. Caught a rattlesnake yesterday with nothing but a stick and a bucket. He did what? Don't worry. Pete helped, and the snake's been relocated far from the house. Clara shook her head. This is what I get for falling in love with a cowboy. Among other things. Sam's arms tightened around her. Speaking of which, I need to talk to you about something. That sounds serious. It is. He turned her to face him. Come with me. He took her hand and led her away from the house, past the barn, past the chicken coop, toward the ridge that overlooked the valley. They walked in silence. Clara's heart beat faster with every step. Sam's face was unreadable, but his grip on her hand was firm. At the top of the ridge, he stopped. Look, he said. Clara looked. Below them stretched acres of open land, green now with new growth. A creek wound through the center, glittering in the morning sun. In the distance, she could see mountains still capped with snow. It's beautiful, she said. It's yours. Clara's breath caught. What? I bought it. Sam's voice was quiet. 6 months ago, before I even found you in that snow. It was my grandfather's land once. I always meant to do something with it. Sam? Wait. Let me finish. He turned to face her, taking both her hands. I know we haven't talked about the future. Not really. We've been so busy surviving that there hasn't been time for planning. We have time now. We do. And I want to use it. He took a breath. Clara, I want to build a house on this land. A real house with a kitchen big enough for Harriet to complain about, and bedrooms for all the children. I want to plant a garden and raise cattle and watch the sun set over those mountains every night. Clara's eyes were blurring. That sounds wonderful. I want to do it with you. Sam's voice dropped. I want to marry you, Clara. I want to be a father to Will and Maddie and Rose. I want to build a life with you right here on this land. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple silver with a tiny blue stone. It was my mother's, he said. The only thing I have left of her. I've been carrying it for 20 years, waiting for someone worth giving it to. Clara couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I know it's not much, Sam continued. I know you deserve better. I know you've been through hell and back, and you deserve a man who can give you the world. But I can't give you the world. All I can give you is this land, this ring, and every day I have left. He looked at her, his eyes full of everything he'd never said. Will you marry me? Clara stared at the ring, then at Sam, then at the land stretching out before them, green and gold and full of promise. She thought about everything she'd lost, her home, her husband, her faith in the world. She thought about everything she'd found. A man who loved her, children who were thriving, a future she'd never dared to imagine. Yes, she whispered. Sam blinked. Yes, yes. Clara laughed, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll build a house with you. Yes, I'll spend every day I have left right here with you. Sam's face split into a grin. He grabbed her, lifted her, spun her around. She said yes, he shouted to the sky. She said yes. Clara held on tight, laughing and crying at the same time. When he set her down, he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. I love you, he said. I love you too. They stood on the ridge, hand in hand, looking out at the land that would become their home. Behind them, the past was fading. Ahead, the future was waiting. And for the first time in her life, Clara wasn't afraid to meet it. The wedding was simple. Reverend Thomas McAllister came from town to perform the ceremony. He was a quiet man with kind eyes and a voice that carried weight without being loud. Clara liked him immediately. They held it on the ridge at sunset, with the valley spread out below them like a blessing. Harriet stood as witness, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief she swore she wasn't using. The ranch hands gathered in a loose circle hats, in hands scrubbed clean for the occasion. Will walked Clara down the aisle. He took the job seriously, his small face set with determination, his hand gripping hers, like he was afraid she might float away. You look pretty, Mama, he whispered. Thank you, sweetheart. Are you scared? Clara looked at Sam waiting at the end of the makeshift aisle. He was wearing his best shirt, the one without patches, and his hair was combed for once. His eyes found hers and held. No, Clara said. I'm not scared. The ceremony was short. Clara barely heard the words. She was too busy looking at Sam, memorizing his face, trying to believe this was real. When Reverend McAllister said, "You may kiss the bride," Sam cupped her face in his hands and kissed her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The ranch hands cheered. Harriet cried. Will made gagging noises that made everyone laugh. And Clara, standing in the golden light of sunset, with her new husband's arms around her, felt something shift inside her chest. The last piece falling into place. The last wound closing. The last breath of fear leaving her body. She was home. Summer arrived in a blaze of heat and color. The house went up faster than Clara expected. Sam hired extra hands, and they worked from dawn to dusk, raising walls and framing windows and hammering shingles onto the roof. Clara worked beside them, hauling lumber, mixing mortar, doing whatever needed doing. You don't have to do this, Sam said one afternoon, watching her carry a beam that was almost as long as she was tall. Neither do you, and yet here we are. Stubborn woman. You married me. Best decision I ever made. By the end of July, the house was standing. It wasn't fancy. 4 rooms, a kitchen, a porch that wrapped around 2 sides. The wood was rough cut and smelled like pine. The windows were small, but let in plenty of light. But it was theirs. The night before they moved in, Clara walked through the empty rooms alone. She ran her hands over the walls, felt the solid weight of the beams, listened to the silence. This was what she'd dreamed of. All those nights in the snow, in the bunkhouse, in the borrowed beds of strangers. This was what she'd been walking toward, without knowing it. A home. A real home. "What are you thinking?" Sam stood in the doorway, silhouetted by moonlight. "I'm thinking I don't deserve this." "That's funny." He walked toward her. "I was thinking the same thing about myself." "We're quite a pair." "We are." He stopped in front of her, his hands finding her waist. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe we don't have to deserve it. Maybe we just have to accept it." Clara thought about Harriet's words months ago. Gratitude's what you feel. Acceptance is what you do. "I'm trying," she said. "I know. So am I." Sam kissed her forehead. "We'll figure it out together." They stood in the empty house holding each other and let the silence fill the spaces between them. Tomorrow they would move in. Tomorrow their real life would begin. Tonight they had this moment. It was enough. The children adapted faster than Clara expected. Will claimed the room with the window overlooking the corral so he could watch the horses at night. He filled it with rocks and feathers and the small treasures boys collect, and Clara learned to check his pockets before doing laundry. Maddie chose the room closest to Clara, and Sam's still nervous about being too far away. But week by week, her nightmares faded. She started sleeping through the night, started smiling without being prompted. And then one morning she spoke. Not to Clara or Sam, but to a stray cat that had wandered onto the porch. "You're hungry," Maddie said. "I know what that's like." Clara, watching from the doorway, felt her heart crack open. She brought out a bowl of milk and sat beside her daughter. "What are you going to name him?" she asked. Maddie thought about it. "Thunder." "Like the horse Mr. Sam made you," Maddie nodded. "Thunder protects me, so will he." The cat stayed. So did the name. Rose grew like the wildflowers that sprung up around the house. She learned to walk, then to run, then to climb things she shouldn't. She said her first word mama, and then her second da, and Clara watched Sam's face when he heard it, watched him turn away to hide the tears. He never asked to be called that, never assumed the title, but the children gave it to him anyway. One night, after the children were asleep, Clara found Sam on the porch, staring at the stars. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking I never thought I'd have this." His voice was rough. "A wife, children, a home." He shook his head. "After the war, after Sarah, I figured I'd die alone somewhere, figured it was what I deserved." "You were wrong. I know that now." He looked at her. "You taught me that." Clara sat beside him. "I didn't teach you anything. You already knew. You just forgot." "Maybe." He took her hand. "Or maybe some lessons you need to learn twice." They sat in silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. "I heard from Rebecca," Clara said finally. "She wrote me last week." "What did she say?" "She's settled in California, started a boarding house for women in trouble. Says she's happy." Clara paused. "She thanked us again, said we saved her life." "We didn't save her. She saved herself. We just gave her the chance." "That's what I told her." Clara leaned her head on his shoulder. "She wants to visit someday. Meet the children." "I'd like that." "Me too." The summer passed, then fall, then another winter gentler than the last. Clara learned the rhythms of the ranch. The early mornings, the long days, the bone-deep satisfaction of work that meant something. She learned to ride properly, to mend fences, to birth a calf in the middle of the night. She learned that happiness wasn't something you found. It was something you built day by day, choice by choice. And she learned that love wasn't a feeling. It was a verb, an action, a decision made fresh every morning. Sam taught her that. Every time he brought her coffee without being asked. Every time he held her when the old fears crept back. every time he looked at her like she was the center of his universe. She tried to teach him the same thing. Every time she bandaged his cuts without complaint. Every time she listened to his nightmares about the war. Every time she reminded him that he was worth saving, even when he forgot. They weren't perfect. They argued. They made mistakes. They hurt each other in the small ways that people who live together always do. But they always came back, always forgave, always chose each other again. That was the lesson Clara learned that winter in the snow. That was the truth Sam carried in his heart. Love wasn't about never falling. It was about always getting back up. The second spring brought changes. Clara stood on the porch watching Will ride his own horse for the first time. He sat tall in the saddle, his face fierce with concentration, and she saw a glimpse of the man he would become. "He's got good form," Sam said, coming up behind her. "He learned from the best." "Flattery will get you everywhere, Mrs. Donovan." Clara smiled at the name. It still felt new, even after all these months. "I have something to tell you," she said. Sam's brow furrowed. "Good something or bad something?" "Good." Clara took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "Very good." Sam went still. His eyes dropped to where his hand rested, then lifted to her face. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying we're going to need another room." His face transformed. Wonder, disbelief, joy, they flickered across his features like sunlight through clouds. "A baby." His voice cracked. "We're having a baby." "We are." Sam let out a whoop that made the horses startle, and Will look up from his ride. He grabbed Clara and spun her around just like he had on the ridge the day he proposed. "We're having a baby," he shouted. Sam put me down. "No." He set her gently on her feet but didn't let go. "No, I'm never putting you down, never letting you go. You hear me? I hear you." Clara laughed. "I think the whole territory hears you." He kissed her, deep, thorough, full of promise. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I love you," he said. "I love you so much it scares me." "I know." Clara touched his face. "I love you too, and I'm not scared anymore." "No, no," she smiled. "I've got you. What's there to be scared of?" The baby came in December. A boy, strong and loud and perfect. Clara held him in her arms, exhausted and radiant, and watched Sam lean over to look at his son for the first time. "What should we name him?" she asked. Sam was quiet for a long moment, then softly, "Daniel, after my brother." Clara's heart clenched. "That's a beautiful name." "He was a beautiful person." Sam touched the baby's tiny fist. "I hope he grows up to be half as good." "He will." Clara shifted Daniel into Sam's arms. "He's got you as a father." Sam looked down at his son. His face was soft open, full of an emotion too big for words. "I never thought I'd have this," he whispered. "Any of this." "Neither did I." "How did we get so lucky?" Clara thought about that question. Thought about the snow, the near death, the long road that had brought them here. "I don't think it was luck," she said finally. "I think it was choice. Every day we chose to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep believing something better was possible." She reached up and touched his face. "And we were right." Years passed. The ranch grew. The children grew faster. Will became a man strong and steady like his stepfather. He took over managing the cattle, then the business, then the whole operation. He married a girl from town and gave Clara her first grandchild. Maddie blossomed into a woman of fierce independence. She went east to study medicine, came back to open a clinic in town. She never forgot the cat named Thunder, and she never stopped fighting for the people who couldn't fight for themselves. Rose grew into the beauty of the family, but her beauty was the least interesting thing about her. She had her mother's stubborn streak and her father's quiet strength. She became a teacher, traveling from ranch to ranch, making sure every child in the territory could read. And Daniel, the baby born in that second winter, grew into a man who carried his uncle's name with pride. He became a lawyer, then a judge, then a voice for justice in a territory that still had far to go. Sam and Clara watched it all, grew old together on the land they'd built, weathered storms and droughts and the small heartbreaks that come with living. But they never stopped choosing each other, never stopped getting back up. On their 25th wedding anniversary, they sat on the porch of the house they'd built with their own hands. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Clara leaned her head on Sam's shoulder. "Remember the day you found me?" she asked. "Every day. I was ready to give up." "I know. You saved my life." Sam shook his head. "No. I gave you a choice. You saved yourself." Clara smiled. "You whispered something to me, that first night when I couldn't sleep. Do you remember what it was?" Sam was quiet for a moment, then softly, "Let me carry your burden." "That's right." Clara took his hand. "And you did. For 25 years you've carried it with me. Wasn't heavy." Sam kissed her hair. "Not with you." They sat in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. The first stars appeared faint and far and constant. "I love you, Sam Donovan." "I love you too, Clara Donovan." She closed her eyes. Let the peace wash over her. 25 years ago, she had been a woman dying in the snow, ready to give up on everything. Now she was a woman surrounded by love, by family, by a life richer than she'd ever dared to dream. And it had all started with a cowboy who refused to walk away. Clara squeezed Sam's hand. He squeezed back. And together they watched the stars come out, knowing that whatever tomorrow brought, they would face it the same way they'd faced everything else. Side by side. Heart to heart. Always. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and stay with us for the next journey. Every ending is just another beginning, and every road leads somewhere worth going. She was ready to give up, but he whispered, "Let me carry your burden." And she learned the greatest truth of all, that burdens shared become blessings multiplied, that love built in the hardest winters blooms brightest in the spring, and that the strongest homes are built not from wood and stone, but from the choices we make to stand beside each other when the world turns cold. Clara Whitmore walked into the snow expecting to die. Clara Donovan walked out of it ready to live, and that made all the difference.